Hello and welcome to another episode of Turning the Page with Jer and Gel. I'm Jer.
And I'm Gel. We're your hosts. We're just a couple on a mission to explore, understand, and transform the challenges that couples face.
Today we're going to jump into the topic that affects countless marriages, men especially, like me, and women. Pornography is what we're talking about. We're going to discuss the impact on relationship, generational consequences, and how to have a crucial conversation with your teenagers about this issue.
So join us on this journey as we navigate this important discussion and bring in insights from our personal experience and from the Bible. Let's turn the page together. Well, welcome everyone to episode 34.
Yes, welcome. We are back.
We are back. Back again. Let me tell you, we've been out the last 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
We are so sorry.
I'm still recovering, I think.
I think I am too. We did not post because we've had family in town 2 weekends in a row. We didn't find the time to film these last 2 weeks. I am so sorry. That has never happened before.
No. We literally had every day
back to
something going on, morning, evening, afternoons. When we didn't have something going on, we came home and we slept. Literally, like,
pretty much.
I think we slept like 6 hours a day to recover.
But that's what happens when the balloon fiesta is here in town, you know?
If you're not familiar with Balloon Fiesta is one of our largest events in Albuquerque. It's an international event, and there's hot air balloons, lots of hot air balloons, like close to 1,000, and they fly everywhere, all up in the air. Can't miss it.
No.
Unless you go on the last day, then you can.
Mm-hmm.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
See what I did there?
Yeah, we did not get to see them go up this last weekend. But the 2 weekends ago when my dad and sister were in town, you didn't get to go with us, but I went and I got to see them go up.
Yeah, that's true. But we are not talking about balloons today.
No, we're not.
We are going to be talking about a different type of balloons.
Dun, dun. It's not a balloon. Oh my gosh. We're talking about pornography, y'all. Pornography. It is such babe, can you mute that?
Oh, there it is. There's a mute.
You need to cut that part out. Anyways.
Yes, Director Jelly.
Pornography is something that a lot of men, many men, struggle with, but not even just men, women too.
Yeah. It's geared towards men, and they know that men are going to fall for it and be attracted towards it. And one of the things that we're not told is that it is very damaging.
It is. To who?
And as a teenager growing up, as a young adult growing up, your sex drive is high and you're looking at everything and anything. And once pornography gets into the picture, it can take it, you're going to go one or two ways. You're going to either get into it and you're going to go full force, or you're going to see it and you're going to be like, you know what, that's not for me. Try to resist it and get away from it. Unfortunately, I was introduced to it like young. Like I think I was only like 10, 11.
That's pretty young, babe.
In the town that I grew up, I had a three-wheeler, and me and our friends, we would go riding our little dirt bikes and motorcycles all over town, and, well, dirt roads in town. Mm-hmm. But there was this one spot that we would go to called the Bowl, and we would go ride our ATVs and motorcycles in there. And one time that we were there, we had stopped up on this hill and parked, and we saw this bush, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, what's that? It was a magazine.
In the bush?
In the bush.
And who left it there?
I have no clue.
And you were 10?
I think I was around 11 or 12.
Found
probably.
this magazine? Was it Playboy?
I think it was worse than Playboy. I think it was like Hustler or something because it showed
what? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it was. It
You
was
can tell
a
I don't know
very,
that much.
very graphic. Very.
Wait, so you and your friend opened it?
Yeah, we saw a book on the floor and we saw it was a magazine, and that back then we didn't have cell phones. Everything was on paper, on print.
Mm-hmm.
So when we saw that, we went and got it, and man, all three of us were like, "What? Oh my gosh, look at that! Oh, her legs are open. What's up?"
Did you laugh? Did you?
Oh
cry?
yeah, we were
Did
joking
you...
around. We were laughing and playing. I mean, we were already to that point where we kind of knew.
Who got to keep the magazine?
We put it back, but guess where we went the next day?
To the store?
No, straight back to the bush.
You're kidding! Oh my gosh. Babe,
we were trying to hide it and keep
have
it.
never shared this with me.
I know. We haven't talked about this. But that's where I was introduced to it. That's the first time that I had ever seen pornography, heard about it. I knew it was wrong because when I went home, I was like, "Oh,
Did you
my
tell
dad's
your
gonna
parents?
know. I'm gonna be in trouble." No, I didn't say anything.
Why didn't you tell them? Look what I found.
I don't know.
I would have brought it home and been like,
I did not
Mom,
even ask.
Dad, look what I found. What is this?
No, because some of the friends that I was with, like at that time, they had already been exposed to it. So I was the first. I was like the one going, "Oh my gosh, what is that?"
Little Jeremy.
It looks like a mouth. Just kidding.
You did not say that.
I don't remember what I said.
I know you
but
did not.
It was
say
very
that.
graphic, and then that's like after that. Once you got that appetite for that, like it just kept growing and growing and growing. So our friends, once we got older, we would go to the gas station and we'd try to buy magazines, and a lot of times you had to be 18 or older to do it, but we would get away with it sometimes, or we'd put it in a different magazine and go and take it up, be like, "We're gonna buy this."
Really? They didn't like feel how thick it was? Really?
There was an old lady there. She didn't really pay attention.
Wow.
She's like, "Oh, how are you guys doing today? Oh, Jerry, hi." So, that once you were exposed to it, we didn't know. We were still innocent. We didn't know the depths of it and stuff. But from that point on, like that, you see a woman, you see her in a way that you've never seen her before, or seen a woman before, naked. And as boys growing up, like that was something like we just kept fueling, right? So into my teenage years, into my adult years, and then cell phones came, and before that it was like you had to print stuff. You'd be able to go on the internet, and then you'd have to print it or whatever. Mm-hmm. But now, I mean, access is at the tip of your fingers. You go to this and just type in whatever you want, and I'm sure it's just going to come out right at you. But it's so accessible, but the thing is that it's so damaging. It was damaging to me. It's damaging to the way I perceive sex. It's damaging to the way that I would see myself trying to portray what I saw and think that's the way sex is supposed to be. Mm-hmm.
Did it affect all of your relationships?
No, because I kept it like hidden pretty well.
How did you hide that?
By not ever showing or saying or telling anyone.
Okay, like back in the day, there was no phones, so you had to hide magazines in your room. Your parents never went through your room?
My parents, I'm sure they did. I kept everything in the bathroom. Everything was in the bathroom.
What?
We had like this, the bathroom.
Yeah.
My parents, so that shelf, everything was up on top. One time I did leave one out, and my parents had family over, some friends over.
Gosh.
And they went in the bathroom, and they're like, "Oh, what's this? Oh my gosh!"
And your parents said,
"Jeremy, what is this? Oh, my friend let me use it."
You didn't put it under your mattress like normal teenagers?
No, I did not.
Your sock drawer?
I did not. my mom put all my clothes away, so she would have found that like immediately. When she makes the bed, she would have probably found that.
Of course she did.
So I didn't try to, like, I hid it, but I didn't like know, like, oh, you're supposed to hide it like this.
I'm amused
But
right now.
the thing that's so damaging about it is I wish I wouldn't have got into that at any age, but at such a young age, because once, like, I hadn't had sex, I didn't have any of that, but that led me to masturbation. That led me to seeing those images and trying to play out and do things, and like, I don't know how, I mean, just to be completely real and open and graphic about it, but you get to a point to where you're doing that and you're doing that and you're doing that. You're pleasing yourself. You're looking at these images, and then you start to become numb to those images.
Well, you kind of get like on this high, and it becomes an addiction. Like you have to have more and more because the high goes away, and then.
So then you want to step things up, and then you want something different, and then you want to see something, you want to see more, you want to, so and that's the way pornography even is in these times. Like, men will get into it, or young men will get into it and start watching it. It messes with your head. There's so many things on how these things are filmed, and like I've listened to some testimonies of people that were in the porn industry, men, women, and they talk about it coming out of it, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's not what it looks like. It's really all played out, and it's angles, and it's lighting, and it's this and it's that, and it's to make everything look more intense. And in our minds, watching something like that, you're like, oh man, that's how I want to please my woman. But in reality, that's not always the case. Now, in some sense of that, yes, but not, to the point to where they take things at times. But a lot of times pornography will take you into violence. It'll take you into degrading women. It'll take you into a place of anger, and it's not a healthy thing in any way.
Well,
so
porn gives unrealistic views of sex, right? So it changed your perspective and your view of how sex should be. So when you finally had sex after all that porn, what did you think? Were you like, this is it?
Yeah, pretty much.
It was like, this is not what I imagined. You're
expecting more. You're wanting to repeat that. So your expectation of what you've seen and what you've perceived in your mind, then when you actually have that and you're doing it, you're never meeting that expectation that you set for yourself. So it's not always as pleasing, or it's not always as satisfying as you thought it would be.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, but that's the mental part of it. Now, sex is satisfying. Sex is pleasing. Sex is beautiful. But when you involve that in it, it really muddies it up, because in your mind and your heart and your spirit and everything, that plays out in your life, and it plays out through your actions and stuff. So,
well, and sex is also meant to be giving, right? Yeah. I'm giving to you, you're giving to me, whereas pornography is more like take. I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
And that is not healthy.
No.
So,
not at all.
I mean, I don't watch porn, and I've watched porn.
Have you ever?
Once in my whole life.
One time.
And I already had a kid. I think I was in my early 20s, and it wasn't even like, from what I know about porn now as an adult, I don't feel like it was real porn. You want to know what it was? It was, that stupid.
Yes, please tell me.
That stupid Kim Kardashian. You know how her and her ex-boyfriend. Oh yeah, and it leaked.
Football player or something. Or
I don't know the guy's name.
Performer or something.
But it was a video of them that leaked out. And then it became like this. DVD, whatever. It was that video, and I don't remember watching the whole thing, and it was like a snippet. But it was with my ex, and I was like, "This is it." Like, we watched it together.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't amused. I was like, okay. But then even
Yeah.
nowadays,
Well, that's good.
you
That's
watch
good
a lot
thing.
of soft porn just of the movies that we watch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
True.
There's all these sex scenes now in rated R movies, and it's not quite like as graphic as porn, right? But it's still a great visual,
Yeah.
you know?
Yep. It is. It's
So,
sex is a big seller on everything around us. We look at clothing, we look at television, we look at movies, we look at social media. There's stuff that's always coming up on social media and stuff that is driven by sex sells. That's a lot of companies use that. So
you know why sex is not very common? It's not a very common subject in the church. I think because a lot of times people think that sex is bad, right?
well, that's what we're told
But
when you're younger.
right? It's like, don't do it. But a teenager is going to do what you tell them not to do. So try not to do that. Like if you say, don't do this, they're going to go do it.
One of the biggest things.
But God doesn't frown upon sex. He actually created it, first of all. And he created it within the confines of marriage, right? Yeah. And so it's not dirty. And sexual desire isn't bad. Like, I desire you every day. Almost. I think you desire me a little bit more than I do. But you know what I mean? Like, it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not.
But even as married couples, it's like hush, hush. And I'm like, we're married. I can do whatever I want.
Yep. It is, being raised in church or around a church setting. That's what we're always told. You don't do it. You don't do it. That's for adults. That's when you're married, But we were never explained as to the reason why. Like, why don't you? Why shouldn't I? Why don't I want to go that route? Why don't I want to have sex before marriage? Mm-hmm. Why don't I want to do everything else that kids are doing my age when, most of the kids, I didn't lose my virginity till I was like 17, I think, 16, late 16, 17 maybe, mid 17, I don't know. So all my friends by then, oh my gosh, they were already on their 5th or 6th relationship, and some of them were way beyond that, just every weekend just partying.
So at what age did you overcome this pornography addiction?
Not till a few years ago, like 5 years maybe, to where I started to get a handle in it. So I would go through seasons, right? Mm-hmm. So I would know. So even in my first marriage that I had, there was a period that I didn't deal with it. I wasn't having issues with it. I wasn't going through things with it. But then as the relationship started getting worse and there was things that weren't happening, and there was loss of respect, there was a loss of just family and the way our roles are supposed to be, and me feeling appreciated and all kinds of stuff, then I started to turn to that. I would start to look it up on the computer, and I'd start to go through things and read stuff. And then, it got to the point where I'd even go purchase magazines. I'd go buy Playboys, and then I'd keep them at, work, or I'd keep them wherever. But by then it was already on the internet, so everything was there. And then I would know that I shouldn't be doing that. I would repent. I would ask God for forgiveness. I would turn away from it. I would, try to keep away from it. And then months and months and months would go by, and then I would get into that same place again. And then my second marriage, not as much. That desire was always there, and I would go to it every once in a while. Back then, like like you were talking about the videos. The video would come out of Kim Kardashian and the guy that she was with. Videos out on Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee from whatever, and then there was different things coming out during that time and stuff. So those are things that I would go watch and see, and by myself, of course. But yeah, and then phones came into play, and later on after that, of course, I would watch stuff on phones and tablets that I had. And
what about your marriage now?
There was a season of my singleness where I told you that I stayed single for a long period of time.
Yeah, like 3 years.
Yeah. During that time, I did struggle with it, but I did keep a big portion of that. I did keep away from it, so I didn't really allow it to get back in. And then after I had met someone, had a really quick like marriage fling, got out of that. There was probably a good 2.5 years that I hadn't dealt with anything like that. So I was really moving forward. I was really seeking God. I was really trying to find myself as a person. And during that time, I didn't want anything defiling that. I didn't want anything coming in between it. I didn't want to, if I was going to have an experience with God and truly see who I was as a man, then I didn't want to have any of that stuff affecting me. When I did get out of that relationship, however, I was upset. I felt like horrible. I felt embarrassed. I felt like all kinds of stuff. And I was like,
back to porn?
God, I set myself aside for all this time, and I thought that this was, going to work out. And I thought that you were sending me the person that didn't happen. And then I kind of got upset and blamed everything else, right? Then I turned and started not living like I was before, because I thought that basically everything I did was for nothing.
Party Jer came out.
So I did start, I started hanging out with people that I typically didn't, and then started going places that I typically wouldn't, and I would do a little bit more of, oh, well, this ain't bad. Oh, well, let's go here. Oh, okay, this ain't bad, And then, of course, yes, the desire of that came up again, and I started looking at things again I caught up, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but when you and I had met, I wasn't really into like going and looking at it all the time. So when I did, it was like, okay, I'm feeling lonely, or I'm feeling like I need some loving. So that's when I would go to it and watch it.
And how often was that?
Probably once or twice a week.
And then we started hanging out.
Yeah, but then I was, when I was with someone, or if I was dating someone, then I wasn't. Like, and then there was a period of time that I was seeing someone for a few months, and I didn't have a need for pornography. I didn't look at it. I didn't mess with it.
Do you still struggle with pornography today?
I don't struggle with it as far as the fact of like I'm going back to it and I'm watching it and doing all that. But that desire does still come up at times.
When?
Usually if I'm alone.
When is that?
Usually if I'm...
Hardly ever.
No, not hardly ever. Like,
because you're really never alone.
So like during this last week, like that desire had came up. So it was like my hormones were high. usually in around that sense of I'm, if you're on your period, or like there's a period of time that we're not engaging, and there's something like just our lives are busy and stuff, and we're not having that time, then the thought comes up.
So
and
what do you do during that moment when the thought...
I stay busy.
Doing what?
I will get up, I'll go walk around, I'll turn the movie on, or I'll get on my computer and watch, YouTube, or
inappropriate videos.
No,
Or go work out. You can go
So
work out.
I've done that before.
Or you can just.
But YouTube, like I like to listen to podcasts. That's one of the things. I'll put a podcast on and start, just get your mind away from it. That's the biggest thing, is getting your mind away from
You can play the guitar.
that. Yeah.
You can practice worship songs on the guitar.
Yeah. You can
Or
do lots of
how
stuff.
about you just go get your wife?
Okay.
I mean, if I can, because sometimes I can't.
Yes. But that is, I mean, I
you have
still
more
see
control.
it. I still see it as a struggle, because I'm not an alcoholic, so I never desire to have to go get a drink. I don't struggle with drugs. I've never, I got to go get weed, or I got to go get this, or I got to go get that, or I got to. That's not something that I struggle with. The only two things that I ever see that sometimes, man, I really want this, I really want something right now, are cigars and wine sometimes. But it's something that's easy to turn off. It's not something that, it's gonna draw me and I have to do it.
Right.
But the same thing with pornography. It's still something that comes up. It's still something I think about. It's still something that I struggle with. Sometimes I'll be scrolling through Instagram or things that are, even sometimes on YouTube, there are some videos and stuff that you go and start watching, and there's, they start showing women and stuff. But the main thing is that you pause that or stop that. And what I mean by pausing it is get away from that for the meantime. When you see that temptation, if you're on Instagram and things are coming up, it's like, okay, I need to take some time away from this. I need to turn it off, put it away. Because once you start just going into that and, I'm just going to look at this. That's not bad. Oh, it's just this girl shaking her butt or doing this, or it's her in a bathing suit walking around. And, those are things that still catch your attention as a man and as me. But that will start to take you down a hole. It'll start to take you down a route that you don't want to go through, So in the past too, the other thing that I've done is I've got a hold of friends and said, hey, I'm struggling with this. This is something that I'm going through. And the good thing about it is a lot of times they say, dude, don't feel bad. We deal with the same thing, or I'm dealing with the same thing. I had to stop. I had to get off of Instagram, or I had to get off of TikTok, or I had to get off of Twitter or whatever for the last 3 months because I was struggling with it too. So those are things that are helpful, but I don't like the fact that it still is something that comes up, and like that desire still there.
Well, I mean, we're only human, and so we do have our vices that we're going to struggle with, I think, for our whole entire lives, pretty much. But I think it's more important how you handle it, and, the fact that you have more self-control and discipline now, I think because you're older, right? And wiser, then that helps. I think age helps too, and experience.
Well, and understanding the effects of it.
Yeah, because it does affect you a lot. And I'm just going to read some of this statistics that I found here. Maybe you know of this, maybe not. But consistent porn use also leads to frontal lobe atrophy, resulting in a loss of control over behaviors and impaired decision making. It can lead to toxic stress, anxiety, depression, and other mental and emotional challenges. And recent research even shows that porn can lead to erectile dysfunction, problems with arousal or reaching orgasm, and decreased sexual satisfaction. Can you believe that? I mean, why would you want those things, first of all? So it does a lot of harm to yourself, but not even just to you, but to your relationship. Yeah. Which is our next topic. Yeah, it does. It does harm when you're in a relationship, it harms your spouse. Like if you were watching porn, I wouldn't like it. I'm not going to be like, what are you doing? I'm not going to be nagging you about it. But I would want to try to be there for you, want to understand, probably be praying for you. Because there's not really much I can do. Because I'll fulfill any fantasy you want. Tell me what you want, I'll do it. I'll do it. You have a fantasy, let's recreate it.
Yeah.
You want to do some little acting, you want some cute little outfits, I'll do it.
Hello, mi amor.
I mean, sex doesn't have to be boring. Sex can be fun. It does,
And you do. I mean, I think that's one of the main things that's keeps me from going down that path is the fact that we do have a healthy sexual relationship.
We do. And I never say no. I think maybe one time I did, but it was because I couldn't. It wasn't because I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But you know what? You told me your first no this week. A couple nights ago. I tried. And because he had been wanting it. And I tried. And he was so exhausted. By the time I got to bed, which was 10:30. That's still early.
I was already asleep.
He was already asleep and out. I'm like, are you sure? I had just gotten out of the shower. I was ready to go. And he didn't say, no, baby, not tonight. He didn't say it all. He was just I'm tired. And he was half asleep. I was like, okay, I'll get you tomorrow. That's the first time you've done that. Did you know that?
Is it?
It was.
Is it?
First time you've ever not followed through with with what I was giving.
Yeah. Let's not make that a habit.
He was that tired apparently.
Yeah.
Sleep was more important that day.
It was night. She wakes up. So when we're getting ready for bed, she wakes up at the time that I'm going to bed. 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11 p.m. This girl's second wind. Oh, my gosh. And I'm struggling between 9:45 and 11 o'clock. But if I'm tired, now I'm babe, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I love you.
I'm a little bit of a night owl.
But she was gone. She got back a little bit late. So, yeah.
I'm a little bit of a night owl.
Yeah, you are.
Just a little. But I'm always asleep by midnight.
Always? You know how many times you've been on the phone where I fall asleep at 10:30, 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Maybe.
And I wake up to go to the bathroom because I have to pee. And it's going to be 2 o'clock in the morning. And guess what she's doing?
Maybe not.
Big old bright light in her face.
Baby, listen.
Oh my gosh, I found this TikTok and I can't go to sleep.
You go down a wormhole anyway.
She does.
On the weekends. It's the weekends only that I really stay up a little bit later. But you know what? I do a lot of research at night. I search for things that I've been trying to figure out or, buy or, I want to do this to the house, so I got to look for this or, just sometimes I just search for things on how to be a teenage mom because I feel like some days are rough being a teenage mom and I'm trying to figure that out. So I will look for things like how to talk to your teenage son about whatever, how to discipline your teenager, how to get them to do their homework.
See, and this is the difference where men and women...
He just goes to sleep.
I do.
And all my thinking
when
is
I'm
done at night.
When my work day's done and I'm home and we're done doing what we need to do, I'm done. I'm done. And my mind is whew, that was great. That was a good day. We're done. Tomorrow starts tomorrow. But guess when it starts? Tomorrow. She goes to bed and she's rethinking everything that's happened throughout the day and what she did and what she didn't do. And did she lock the door? Did I lock the door? Did you feed the dogs? Did we feed the dogs enough?
We've already mentioned this, baby. Moving on. We're getting off topic. Okay.
But yes, I'm ready for bed and I go to bed.
So pornography and how it affects the marriage, right? Because not only is it psychological, but it's also emotional.
Yeah.
And a lot of women will think like, oh, my husband doesn't think I'm good enough because he's watching other women on TV. He's watching porn. He's doing this. He's going to the strip club. He's like, and to me, it is very disrespectful if like my
Yes.
husband were to go to a strip club or to view videos like that, or it is disrespectful to me. I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm not good enough, only because I'm pretty secure in myself and I know I'm good enough. I'm better than any hussy on that video. Okay. So I know that and I know my worth,
Yes.
but there's a lot of women that don't. And so, like, if you were to fall again or struggle, I'm not going to take it personal. I'm not going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not giving him enough sex. What can I do better? Like, he's not being pleased. I'm going to be like, you have an issue, go fix it. And I will help you from a distance. I'm going to be praying for you. I'll be like, God, take care of your child, because apparently he can't take care of himself and I can't do anything. So here you go. He's all yours. Like, that would be me. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm so ugly. And I just can't. I just cannot. And so, but we have that healthy relationship where we can actually talk to each other about our struggles and not like put each other down or judge each other either.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is important, is that communication and that trust between you and your spouse is very important. Because how do you get through things if you don't have that?
Yeah.
Get through the hard things. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
I do. You know, one of the weird things about it is, like you said, when a man goes to that issue of porn, a lot of times it reflects on the female, the woman, thinking, oh, well, he doesn't think I'm sexy. He doesn't think I'm... And that's not any issue why we do it. Mm-mm. It's not because I don't ever think that what I have in my life isn't enough. It just, there's always that, I don't know, it's like more. But as a woman looks at herself and like looks at herself in a different way, porn actually affects men in that way too. And it damages us because a lot of times then we start trying to compare ourselves to the men or the people that we're seeing on that screen and going, oh, well, then I'm not efficient enough, or I don't have this, or I don't have that, or, you know, man, look how long they last, or look how at the size of that person or whatever. You know, there's things that men always start to compare themselves to, and then you start looking at your own body in a different way, where you don't see yourself as good enough, or you start to think, well, if that's what women like, then all women are going to want that, or all women are going to like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. And this scripture here that I have, First Thessalonians chapter 4, it says, First Thessalonians 4, it says, God's will is that your lives are dedicated to him. This means that you stay away from sexual immorality and learn how to control your own body in a pure and respectable way. Don't be controlled by your sexual urges like the Gentiles who don't know God.
Yeah.
So those who know God should know, like, I need to control these urges. And you do that. I think you do that very well. It doesn't matter if you're still struggling. You have the ability to control it and you work on it. And I know you seek God and for help in all of the areas that you need. And so, you know, I don't know. I pulled this up because I liked it. But
I like that.
I do.
It's good.
Do you want me to save it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to save it for you. This is his phone, so it's saved.
It is. I think the age, maturity has a lot to do with it. There's a lot that I've experienced, and knowing how it makes me feel, knowing what I've experienced through it,
and what
that I it's better if I stay away from it, you know?
Yeah. Well, and then what you do can pass on to the next generation, to your own children.
And that's damaging.
It is. Even if...
And you're opening that door.
You are opening that door to your family to pass on that generational curse.
Yep.
Right? And so it becomes a cycle until someone in the family breaks it.
Yep. And that's like with anything. That's like with alcoholism. That's with drugs. That's with sex. That's with
Mm-hmm.
pornography. That's with, could be multiple
Divorce.
things. Divorce. It could be, gosh, there's so many things that can come. But once you open that door, you're allowing the enemy to come in and attack you and your family. So,
Right.
um, close the door. Close the door. That's all
And
I
how
can
do you
say.
do that, baby? How do you close that door?
Self-control.
Easier said than
Getting
done.
people that can keep you accountable, depending on other people, talking to other people. That's what one of the big things that I did. I had a really good friend that I would constantly reach out to, and he kept me accountable. And when we talked, anytime that we talked during the week, it was like, hey, how's everything going? Hey, how's your day, bro? Dude, doing good, doing good, doing good. We talk about normal things. He's like, hey, I'm gonna ask you a question, and I knew automatically, right there. Is that okay? We're going there, and there were times that I would be able to say, dude, I'm doing good, and then there are some times that you could just tell, like, it went quiet, and he's like, you're struggling with it, aren't you? I'm like, yeah. So
I like it when people hold me accountable, and especially if they don't really know that much of what's going on, but they come up to you because they felt called to come up to you and like tell you something. You're
yeah,
like, how did you know? I don't know. God just told me. I'm like, those are like the best moments.
yeah. It is. It's good to have people that you can rely on and know that, they're not going to go and spread all your stuff everywhere and be
Right?
like, oh, Jeremy's looking at porn. He's over there doing this, da da da.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is nice to have someone that will pray for you and talk to you and check up on you. And like the days that I would have a rough day, or we had a discussion, he knew that I was going through that. The next day he was like, hey bro, praying for you, I know you can do this, you got this. And it was always encouraging. And then when you saw that text come through, it was like, you know what, I can do this.
Yes, you
I'm going to
can.
do this. And
Yes,
I'm
you
not going to
can.
allow myself to fall back into that. So it takes steps, and there are times you are going to fall back and you are going to struggle with it. But as long as your heart and your mind are set on overcoming it and you're moving forward, that's all you can do.
Very true. Very true. And I don't feel like I've ever struggled with pornography. Like men are visual, right? Women really aren't.
Yeah.
We're more emotional creatures.
We're very visual.
And I can't really speak on like the rest of my family. Like I don't know if my dad or my mom or my brothers or if they've struggled with pornography, because we don't really talk about that stuff. Like I grew up in a house where you just don't talk about those things. And so it wasn't a very open house. Like in our home, it's very open. Like we have open communication with each other. We have open communication with our children.
Yeah.
Whether they're adult children or teenage children.
They know they can come to us and talk about anything.
And they do. They come
Yeah.
and like randomly.
A little bit too
They
much sometimes.
yeah, a little bit. Like I don't need to know all that, but sometimes like with our teenager, I struggle because I remember being a teenager and I didn't really have the parents to talk to about certain things, and yet he comes to us about almost everything. Like he feels guilty about something and he'll be like, I gotta let this off my chest, I need to tell you. I was like, what? Right away I'm bracing myself for like the worst possible thing. But I like that it is open, and he might not come right away, but eventually he always comes. And this Bible scripture, Proverbs 22:6 says, train children in the way they should go. When they grow old, they won't depart from it. True. So even though he will fall and he'll fall again and he'll fall again, he'll always get back and he'll always go to what he was taught in his home. So he can be 18 and move out and do whatever he wants in the world, but he'll always remember how we trained him up to be. And that's the household I want him to live in. Yeah. Which is kind of hard with co-parenting because he has two households, right? So, but he's pretty much cooked, right? He's 15. Like a lot of it was in the early age, like the first 10 years are very important. And so I feel like he's fine. He'll be great.
Yeah.
He's a great kid. But there are things that he struggles with that we just try to provide guidance in. And I always go back to this scripture because when I feel like I'm going to fail, I feel like I'm failing, I'm like, well, I did everything I could to train him up. And now it's all up to you, God. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I can't hold his hand, which I'm struggling with because I only have like 3.5 more years until he does whatever he wants.
They always talk about the 3 stages, right, of your children. There's like the nurturing stage, and then there's
Right.
the teaching stage, and now the stage that he's in is kind of like, okay, now we just got to kind of let you flourish and take everything that you've been taught and direct. Like now it's just direction.
Right.
It's pointing him in the right way and giving him advice, but he's at the point to where he's able to make his own decisions, and
Right.
he has to make his own decisions and choices, just like my oldest son, same thing.
Yeah, and we've had conversations about pornography with him, like why it's not good, how it affects you, how it affects your future wife. Like I don't think we've really touched the whole how you can pass it on to your children as a generational curse if you don't break it. Like we haven't really gotten that deep into it with him, but sometimes he'll ask questions and stuff, and so we'll answer. Sometimes I feel like my answers are inadequate, like I'm not like built for this, and I'm like, Google. I'll go to Google, I'll go to the Bible, I'll ask like some of my older mature friends that have older kids, like, did you ever deal with this with your kid? Like my mentor, like I do all this stuff. That's the late night research I'm doing. Like I'm like, okay, how do I do this? But what I was going with that is I went off on a tangent, but I don't know how my family has dealt, if they've ever dealt with pornography, because we don't talk about it, right? But in our household we do. So I like that, but I wouldn't say I dealt with pornography. I think mine was a little bit different. So I don't even know what you would call it, but
well, you were just exposed to it basically.
I don't
But you
know.
you didn't ever allow yourself to.
Well, I don't think I wasn't really exposed to like pictures or movies or videos or like that kind of stuff.
Well,
but
two people having sex and seeing them naked, that's pretty much
like when the scene like that would come on a movie, like my parents would go like this to my eyes. So I couldn't see.
Yeah.
But no, I had this friend in elementary school, and I don't even know how it came up, but like she had mentioned to our whole friend group, and I think I want to say I was 6. So I was like in first grade, okay, which is very young. And she had mentioned like dry humping. She apparently knew what dry humping was. And she had mentioned how she does that with like some of her stuffed animals or whatever. And so then I got freaking curious because she mentioned it. So then I tried it at home. That's how I started with the whole sexual stuff.
So that was before you had any
I was 6.
Yeah.
I was 6.
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew was that she mentioned that this felt good, blah, blah, blah. I tried it, and then it felt good. I was like, oh, that friction feels good down there. Okay. And so guess what? I didn't know it was masturbation until later.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was masturbation until I was like, I think in middle school, really. And so to think that I have been masturbating since the age of 6 is like mind blowing to me. I'm like, wow. And I would get urges because it felt so good. So then I'd be there in class and I would get an urge and I'm like, oh, well, I can't do it in class. You know what I mean? Like, and then so I'd have to like wait till I got home. But, I don't know if that would be considered like part of like a sex addiction where that gets passed on to your children. I don't know, but I wasn't a visual. Like I didn't think about a person while I was doing it. I wasn't like getting off on a photo or video. Like it was just, it felt good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but I recently like told my mom about the fact that I had been masturbating since the age of 6, and she was like freaked out. So I'm like, hey. See, this is why we don't talk about these things in the household I grew up in, because she doesn't know how to handle things sometimes. But like, if Carter were to tell me that, I'm like, okay, well, we would have a conversation about it. I would remain calm about it because he's sharing with me. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not mad. I'm a little bit concerned. How does, that's the kind of tone.
Yeah.
Like when he's come to us about serious stuff,
Yeah.
I'm not yelling. I'm not going ballistic. Like, I'm like, okay, well, I appreciate you sharing that with me. I think that it's really big of you and very mature of you to come to us with that information. And I'm very proud of you. That's what I tell him, so that he can continue to do so. I want it to be like a safe place. I don't want him to feel like I don't love him, or I love him less, or he's being judged, like, because we've all been there. But it just takes that one person, or that one magazine, or just that one little seed that gets planted that makes you be curious and start to wonder and start to experience on your own. Because by the time I was 13, it had evolved to actual physical stuff, not actual like penetration, but to oral sex. And so, and that's a very young age.
Yeah.
Right? Like 6 years is young. 13 is young for oral. Like, I think back to how it was for me back then, and like our teenage son is almost 15, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like when I was 13 I was doing this, and I hope he's not doing this. Like, you know what I mean? All I can do is pray, and that's it. Like, pray and be there, I feel like, because I can't control what he thinks, what he does outside the home. Like, I can't control his actions, nothing.
Yeah.
I can just hope and pray that I did my best, that we did our best.
When you were experiencing, like you said, touching yourself or dry humping and stuff like that, that kind of opened the door, you feel, when you were 13 to 16, whatever, to experience more? Or was there a lot of peer pressure as well? Because that was one of the big things that I had dealt with.
I didn't have peer pressure.
All my friends had sex and I didn't. And they were always trying to get me to go, oh, Jared, go do this, go. So there's this girl and they're going. I'm like, nope.
So I didn't really have peer pressure until high school. And it wasn't really until like my senior year. And that's when I lost my virginity. It was 17. But like elementary school, it was dry humping. And then, middle school, it was that. But then I started touching myself. And then I had a boyfriend. And like, so I think it started with the dry humping at such a young age. And I think that opened up to my curiosity more. Like, oh, if this feels good, what does this feel like? And you know what I mean? Yeah. And so, and that's not something I actually really share with anybody. I mean, because I shared it with you and like 2 other people maybe that are really close, and that's it. But I didn't have a safe place that I felt like I could go and talk to somebody about. Like, growing up, I held in a lot of things that I was going through that I should have been able to go to somebody about, that could guide me, that could help me. And so I think the people in your life have a lot to do, and they play a big role in leading you in the right path. Yeah. Right? It's not, it doesn't just have to be your parents. It could be an aunt, an uncle, a counselor at school, like a mentor. It could be anybody. Yeah. But somebody that can hold you accountable. A spiritual godmother.
There's a lot of influence around you, and it can be good or bad,
Yes. So I always pray pretty much every day. Like, I pray for God to put good influences in our kids' lives, remove the bad influences, to send angels of protection, to guide them, to help them become wise in their decision making. I pray all this for our kids almost every day. Yeah. because there's going to be a time where they're really, really going to need it.
Yeah. And you keep a good tab on who we allow them to, allow our son to play with or stay the night, or who he goes with. And
only certain homes he can stay the night at. And I have to really know the parents. So
so those things all come into play. And
for sure.
I think everyone has a story on what they've dealt with. And I mean, I'm sure there are some people that would be like, I haven't dealt with any of that. And
that is great. And I hope you never do. Yeah, no.
Because once masturbation comes into play, even like that, like there for the longest time, I never thought that was bad.
Right.
I was like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But then when you're looking at things and you're imagining other things and you're bringing things into your life that shouldn't be there, then it does become awful. It does become desensitizing. So
really our advice would be to seek out somebody you can trust, who can be an accountability partner. Pray, read your Bible, get together with your friends and let them know your struggles, or your spouse, let them know your struggle, and that way they're aware, and explain to them, like, it's not you, I'm just going through this and I need help. Like, communication is the key to almost everything, in my opinion. So
we talk about it a lot.
we do and I think we're pretty good at communicating.
So. I there's nothing that we have ever felt uncomfortable sharing stories or things with. Like, the only reason why we don't hear a lot of times, like earlier you had said, I didn't know that. Well, we really haven't had the opportunity where we talk about it, where we brought that stuff out. But like now, even talking about things, there's thoughts, and you kind of go back to what you used to remember, or like what you went through and stuff. But there's a lot of memories that we haven't shared, but we do openly talk about stuff, and that's a great thing.
That's because
when you can confide in each other.
That's because we're still newlyweds and still getting to know each other.
Yeah, but that's not going to change.
What's not going to change?
Us, like, sharing with each other, like, communication is always going to be
No, I'm saying that the reason why we don't know everything about each other is because we're newlyweds.
Yeah.
And
I thought you were saying because we share so much is because we're newlyweds.
No. It's that, like, how I didn't know about the whole magazine bush thing.
Yeah.
How funny, in a bush. Freaking, I wonder who planted that. Anyways.
I don't know, but that was my first experience of it. So.
Okay. Well, we hope that you guys at least got something out of today's podcast.
If not, you learned something new about us.
Yeah, not really a good thing.
There you
go.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us on this episode of Turning the Page with Jer and Gel. We hope that this discussion has provided you with valuable insights and tools to navigate the effects of pornography in your marriage.
Yes, and remember that it's never too late to turn the page on a new chapter in your relationship. Yep. So if you're struggling with pornography or struggling with anything, it's never too late. Just turn that page and start new.
Stay tuned for our next episode, because when we come back, we're going to be continuing the exploration of important topics that impact couples and families. Until then, take care, y'all. Have a wonderful evening and a wonderful day.
Yes, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, our TikTok, our Instagram, our Facebook.
Yes.
And, of course, Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We would love for you to subscribe and share any comments that you might have or topics you would like us to explore.
Have a great day, guys. Bye.